Alright guys, well the time has come. I've put off the electrical long enough that I've started tearing into this here. And if you remember from my first swaps, I've pretty much just made the whole original harness that I cut out of this BEW fit in the swap vehicle. But that is quite a mess, and I'm going to give this a shot at cutting all this off. So if you're going to follow this, you actually don't need to mess with the harness almost at all, because we're going to only use the end of the connectors here, everything I got set up here, and then I'm going to use these heat shrink splices to just splice everything right here where I've got it cut off at, with wire in between. So that's about the easiest way I can see to do it. And you can see here I've got what basic stuff we need to get this BEW going. The crank sensor actually had a shielded wire or casing for these 3 wires, so we may have to look at getting some shielded wire. We'll see what we get there. And then everything else, the cam sensor, the OBD port, the gas pedal, obviously the ECU. I'm going to be splicing all 3 of the power and all 3 of the ground together here and running those to I'm hoping a 25 amp fuse will work. And then I'm just going to be using a standard 87 relay to power that up. And then we've got the glow plug harness and the glow plug relay here, and we'll have to run, that'll be a pretty big wire to run over to a bigger fuse there to the battery. And then injector harness, we've got the coolant temp and the fuel temp. The BEW likes to see both of those. We're also going to be doing the O2 sensor. There's already a base tune set from Techmetronics on the ECU, and Nelson likes to just fine-tune fueling and everything else off of the O2 sensor, so we're going to go ahead and put that in. And lastly, the map sensor, we'll wire that guy in, and we're not going to do a mass airflow sensor, so that'll make the intake a little easier. And yeah, so I've got these schematics here. They're all on the swap group page on Facebook, but this one is generally just for the sensor wiring. And then there's a couple other ones here that get more detailed into cruise control and just a few of the other things. I did notice, just looking at some of this stuff, some of the wire color is not exactly perfect, or at least there's some variations. So it looks like it generally ends up at the same place. They just have different colored wires. I don't know if there were variations in the different wiring harnesses or what's going on there, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the power wired up first. So here's the power wiring, and before it gets any more confusing and I start taping stuff up, I just kind of wanted to go over that. So again, the ground wires are all going there, and then I have a separate ground wire going to the 87 relay that's going to be powering everything up, as well as the OBD port. There's going to be a few other places you need to do grounds at, and they can all pretty much get tied together. This big one going to the main ECU is what's most important. If you follow the schematic, you'll pretty much see where those come in at. And then, so my main power is going to go over to here, and then this will go over to the battery with that 25 amp fuse I was talking about. And then same thing, there's all these yellow black wires all get tied together, and I'm going to end up just putting one 10 amp fuse that turns on with the key, and that's going to turn on the relay as well as feed. There's a couple other wires that just need an input, You can see those here. And those are all just going to turn on with the key for all the sensors and everything else. And yeah, and then this one here is for the OBD port. So I'll get that powered up, and then I just did the map sensor here, so I'll show you that on my little scan tool here. Alright, so we got it powered up here. Relay is on, and my little scan tool here is connected. You can see there's the map sensor in the middle, as well as the intake air temperature. That's all off of that same sensor there. And if I grab it here, you can actually see if I blow on it, you can see the temperature change. And if I put a little pressure on the sensor itself, you'll see the PSI change. So everything looks to be working good there. I like using this little scan tool over having my computer out here all the time, but I'll need to get it out here for some of the more complicated sensors and stuff that it can't see. But pretty cool to see it's powered up and functioning, and get you kind of started on it. I'm probably not going to go through each wire that I wire up here, but again, you can kind of X off and circle the stuff you need to wire, and then, like I say, just make sure the pins and the wire colors match, and you're pretty much set as far as that goes. You should be able to test each sensor, or a few of them you'll be able to, anything temperature or pressure related. Or like the gas pedal, you can get in VCDS and see that that's working. So I'll go ahead and get a lot of this stuff wired up so it's ready to go. The other thing is find your ECU location. I'll put a picture of it where I'm going to put this one at. It's clear up under the dash above the park brake, and then you can kind of test fit where your sensors are going to be and get a measurement on your wiring where it's going to go through the firewall and all that. But yeah, then you kind of set it up however you want. So let's get to it. And here we got the gas pedal wired up here and VCDS plugged in. And if I set this up right here, you guys should be able to see whenever I move it here, it's definitely working just how it should. So there's that. And you can just kind of do it one step at a time. Just get one sensor going, and if you have the engine out and you can pull these sensors out, you can just test them one at a time to make sure you're getting it right. But that's really all there is to getting it here. Alright, and here it is. Pretty much complete harness. I didn't tape it up yet. I was just going to kind of let you guys visualize how many wires you need here. I did, my brother-in-law had all this 14 gauge, so we ended up just using it for everything. But as you can see, a lot of this only needs like probably 20 gauge wire, so could have saved some room there. But even then, this is pretty thin, and I've got this firewall plug here we're going to use, so that should work well for all of these, even with how thick it is. And that'll get the connectors like this guy will be able to fit through, and the the glow plug relay. I did leave these. I'm gonna splice those together once it's in the engine bay. That won't quite fit through the firewall with how big it is. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Get rid of the glare there. And yeah, so there's the gas pedal. Obviously, we got the cam sensor here, the N75 valve, coolant temperature, map sensor, the O2 oxygen sensor, and then the injector plug. And I didn't find a good shielded cable. The one I got was just not working for me, so I think I'm going to try run this as a separate wire for the crank sensor, outside of this harness and see if it still has any issues that way. But yeah, and then I had already went over this, but the power for the relay, so this red wire is, then you can kind of see in the harness here, it is red and yellow, but it feeds power to pretty much everything, and that'll be on one 10 or 15 amp fuse. It kicks on with the key, and then this one will go out and be on that 25 amp fuse to run the ECU and kick on with the relay. And then there's just the ground wires, and that's pretty much it. You can see here there's a few extras. Obviously, I'd say we used about half of the wires in the harness here that are going into there, so I may tap into some of these for cruise control and stuff, but I didn't really want to mess with depinning the thing, so they'll just be taped off for now, and if we needed them for anything else, we could use them that way. But other than that, yeah, you can pretty much see, I'll get a little video here once it's all taped up, but it comes out pretty small, and it's pretty spread out right now. It'll get all condensed. But that's about what a harness would look like if you wanted to just splice the wires and do it that way. I think maybe it's a little more bulky than it could be, but it's definitely a lot better than the mess that I started with. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. And yeah, again, just the map here that they've got online for each of these pretty much walks you through the whole thing. You can see where each wire should go, so that helps you get this done. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll get this thing plugged in and see if she can fire up.